Hey everybody, it's Cam here with a Nerd Book Review with my 10th and final review of the SPFBO 9 finalists. A Rival Most Vial, V-I-A-L, by R.K. Ashwick is 342 pages long. It is the first book in a series that I have forgotten to write down. I'll put a little graphic up top. It is the coziest of cozy reads, kind of like a rom-com in novel form. I will read the book blurb real quick, then we'll get into my usual review format. Two potion shops, one heated rivalry, until hate bubbles over into something else. Any adventurer worth their sword knows about Ambrose Beak. The proud, quiet half-elf sells the best and only potions in the city, until a handsome new shopkeeper named Eli opens another potion shop across the street, throwing Ambrose's peace and ledgers far off balance. Within weeks, they're locked in a war of price tags and products. Ambrose's expertise against Eli's effortless charm. Toil leads to trouble. The safety gloves come off, and right as their rivalry reaches a boiling point, the mayor commissions them to brew a potion together. The task is as complex as it is lucrative, pushing both men to the limits of their abilities and patience. Yet, as the fires burn and cauldrons bubble, they find a different sort of chemistry brewing. Boy, that really sums things up pretty well as far as the plot goes. Let's talk, I'll do my normal format of the world. Then I think we're going to go over the plot first, and then I'll talk about the characters. You really get the characters when I tell the plot. Then we'll talk about the bad, the good, and my final thoughts. This is a true D&D world. It takes place in a city called the Scar. Think like in a big canyon. At some point in the past, adventurers had cleared out all of the spiders, goblins, whatever monsters happen to live in the caverns and holes of the Scar, and it is now like the major adventure hub where all of like the D&D style adventurers go off from this place to fight monsters and do whatever it is that D&D adventurers do. They're all set up here, though, as like where their base camp is for like the highest level ones. There are smaller cities around the Scar that are mentioned that are like places where like lower level adventurers would live and stuff like that. We don't have the normal magic system that I would be talking about in a lot of other books, because you're dealing with kind of like the D&D characters and all the people that'll be in this book. The story mostly takes place on one particular street called Rosamond Street. It is where like all the high-end like artificers, blacksmiths, potion makers, all that stuff happen to reside. And so they're all in one place, makes it easy for the adventurers to find everything in one trip. There are only like one or two excursions outside of the city. There's really no like adventuring in this one. When I say this is a cozy story, this is a cozy story. I think there's like a couple times they'll leave to like go to a sinkhole outside of town, and then they'll go to the sewers of the city one time just as they're trying to make sure that their all of their well stuff is up to code and stuff like that. Getting into the plot now, basically the story starts off, we have Ambrose. He's kind of upset because he's got a bunch of people inside of his shop. They include a gnome, an orc, a human, and an elf, who are all also shop owners on Rosamond Street. And they are looking across the street at an empty shop that is getting ready to reopen. It had been a plant shop, I believe, before. And everyone's taking bets on what it's going to be. Ambrose is very upset that his nice peace and quiet is being disturbed by these people, but his shop does have the best view of the one across the street. So eventually he kind of gets into their betting on what shop it's going to be. They talk about what it could and couldn't be based on, what the layout of the shop is. He is very quickly very upset, enraged, and incensed when he finds out that another potion shop happens to be opening up across the street. That's where our second point of view character, Eli, comes into play. He has bought this shop. He's not from the Scar. He is from a place to the north. I think it's called Kolkar. Not important, but he's bought this shop, sight unseen. He didn't know what was around it, so he had no idea that there was a potion shop across the street. He certainly wasn't trying to go in and undercut Ambrose. It was not his intention at all. And at first, when he has his first interaction with Ambrose, who's obviously pretty pissed off, he's trying to diffuse the situation, saying, hey, sorry, I really didn't know. I wasn't trying to do this to hurt your feelings or to be a jerk. Obviously, Ambrose and Eli are going to start off as rivals, as the tagline says, and as they would be just because of both being potioneers. But as the story goes on, they're going to have to work together, just like the book blurb says, and there will be a romantic element between the two of them as well. All right, let's go ahead and talk about those characters. Ambrose and Eli are the two point of view characters. Ambrose is the first character that we meet. He is an expert master potioneer. His books that he's written are taught in the college that Eli happened to go to. Ambrose was dropped off as a child at this potion shop for the previous master potioneer, and he was trained basically only to be a potioneer. The former master is kind of a jerk, clearly. He didn't really try to raise Ambrose as a father figure at all. He was the master. And so Ambrose is now pretty stunted emotionally. He has a best friend named Dawn, who is a gnome, and they're pretty good friends. He mostly likes to stay out of the social life of the street. They do like regular meetups. Most of the other shop owners on the street, they get along really well and they hang out regularly. And Ambrose gets out of that whenever he can because, he's been emotionally stunted. When Eli, our second point of view character, shows up, he is nowhere near the class of potioneer that Ambrose is, but he is really personable. People like him. Basically, anywhere he goes, he's going to get along with everybody. And so he'll actually become pretty good friends with Dawn as well. Dawn still stays Ambrose's best friend, but she is also Eli's friend. They're both like a lot more social, so they'll go out and like play wingman to each other. And it's kind of fun as far as like, their relationships go. There's also, as I mentioned, an orc who is a amulet maker. There's another human who makes magical armor. And then Dawn, that gnome, she makes wands and things like that. She does a lot of stuff, actually, throughout the entire story. It's got quite the diverse cast. You have, different races. There are a couple of LGBTQ characters. There's a non-binary character. If you're looking for, representation, then this is definitely the book for you. The book definitely spends a lot of time with character building. You're going to have, like, people eating, hanging out. All that kind of stuff is like the real bread and butter of the story. Getting into the good, the bad, and my final thoughts. The bad. I did not care for this book. I didn't enjoy it. The writing's really good, but it's so boring. I have my thing where normally I'll try to make it 20% into a book, and if I've hit 20%, and I'm still not enjoying it, then I would DNF the book. And that's what I would have done here. Now, I mentioned in my last book that The Hills of Heather and Bone, that I also might have given that one a DNF had I stopped at that 20%, and then it ended up just getting amazing. By 20% in, it was already starting to get that way. And this one, though, if I'd have gone 50%, I still would have given this one a DNF. The thing with this book, it really isn't my style, honestly. It's a cozy read. And you know what? There were several other books in this competition that were classified as cozy reads, but they all still had like an adventure or a chase or something, right? There was a lot of action still. This book, I think I looked at it like it was 43% into the book before the first time, there was even mild danger for any of the characters, and it only lasted a few pages. And then we made it like, 66% of the book before they leave the city. And, they have a short little adventure as well that does have a little bit of action. But for the most part, we really are just dealing with people like hanging out or brewing potions or things like that. Basically, it kind of like took that rom-com or what would have been probably a pretty good 2-hour movie. But it took me like 8 or 9 hours to read, right? So at 2 hours, if this had been made into a movie, I think I would have really enjoyed it. Or at least, it would have been something that I would have considered, watching and thought like, oh, this might be fun for an afternoon where I'm, just wanting to watch something cozy. But for like 9 hours, I kept on looking back at like Goodreads and being like, this is only 340 pages, right? Yep, good. I can make it through 340 pages in a day or two. So I really just felt like nothing really happens. Like, it's just a book about people hanging out and brewing potions, and there's a rivalry, but they're still just brewing potions for the most part, right? Then the second thing, if you are looking for an LGBTQ romance, Eli, he'll go on some dates. Dawn is a lesbian. She'll go on, will talk about some dates that she's been on. But like, the romantic element also doesn't start until, about 70% into the book. I don't even think that Eli and Ambrose look at each other with, questioning thoughts until like 60% into the book. So if you're looking for a romantasy, you don't really get that either. You get like one or two, sex scenes later on. There's no, descriptive element. So honestly, this is a book that teenagers can read just fine, because there's no sort of graphic sex scene. I'm not saying that there needs to be in a romantasy, but if that's what you're looking for, was more of that romance, it doesn't happen until so far into the book that if that had been what I was looking for, I wouldn't have found that either. Basically, I just felt like nothing happened. And this was the Seinfeld of books, right? Fun in TV or maybe movie format, but if I have to sit and read it for 8-9 hours, I found myself like forcing myself to read this one. And then the last thing, this is a little plot point thing I was wondering about. So the commission that's mentioned that like forces the two to work together and quit being rivals is for the mayor's daughter's 6th birthday party. They're orcs. As far as I can tell, the 6th birthday party isn't specifically anything special, but they do talk about like taxes and like the city's supposed to run very efficiently, right? But the commission is to make a potion for the daughter's 6th birthday party. And it seems like a lot of city resources are being used for the daughter's birthday party. The mayor has to run. He mentions at one point that he voted for the mayor. But it feels like a lot of people would be upset if the mayor was using significant city funds and resources on a regular basis for any of his daughter's birthday parties, right? It was kind of like one of those things where I was like, the whole time I'm thinking, the way this is talked about, like where like, ledgers, finances and everything's important, that I can't believe a city would have been happy with their voted in mayor using such significant resources for the daughter's birthday party. I don't know if maybe the mayor was paying for it all out of his own pocket, but it was definitely city workers who were doing all of this stuff, right? Setting it all up. And I don't know why, like, that's the thing that bothered me in the story, but I just remember thinking, like, that's awfully wasteful of city resources. That's my last final thought on that. As far as the good, it is extremely well written. I got into that movie in my mind almost immediately, but then the problem is that I then had to fight dozing off throughout that movie. It just wasn't the kind of thing that, had a lot of action. But I guess if you're a person who wants a completely cozy read where all you want to do is relax, you don't want to have to worry about suspense or your heart rate going up at any point, then I bet this is a book that you would really enjoy. I'm clearly not the audience for it. And if it weren't for the fact that this was a SPFBO finalist, I would have not left a rating. I would have stopped reading, 20% in, and I still would have stopped at 50%. That's the positive. It's well written. It was easy to get into that movie in my mind. And if you're looking for a cozy read, that's what it is. So my final thoughts, my final rating, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. Basically, I'd give it about a half a star of my enjoyment level on the story. And then it was well written. There wasn't a ton of plot holes or anything like that. I was a little bit upset, as I mentioned, about wondering where these finances and funds are coming for the daughter's birthday party. But if you take that out of the way, the character interactions really well, the dialogue is well written, and there's, such a diverse cast, and it's really fun as far as that Dungeons and Dragons style goes. It just wasn't a story for me. This finishes off my 10 SPFBO reviews. My next video that will come out here in another day or two after this will be my wrap-up of the SPFBO 9 competition, so if that's something you are looking forward to, be looking for that video. I do feel terrible leaving such a negative review. It is something that I absolutely hate to do. There's a reason why normally I just DNF a book that I don't like and then never mention it again. I really do feel like I am a positive person, and I kind of feel like a cheerleader for the most part for the indie fantasy novels, and I really want people to find books from me that they're going to enjoy. And, I'm not looking to ever bash anything, so I did not enjoy doing this review. But you know what? It is what it is for me doing the competition. Hopefully next year I'll actually be a part of the Before We Go blog team, and I'll have to be, leaving positive, negative reviews for the SPFBO competition. So I guess I just got a head start on that. Thank you everyone for watching all these reviews, and you have a wonderful day.